Hi, good evening. So, I've told you guys before that I write, right? I have a blog. And I've been talking about some of the very ideas I've been writing about for years, basically, on this platform too. I'm going to read one of my essays on here for you, all right? And it's labeled it's labeled "Whiteness Requires Dominance Over the Other, Particularly the Black." And I've said so before at various times in various videos, but I'm going to read one of my essays for you guys right now. And I'll share the link of the essay under the video as well. The inception of whiteness came with the assertion, self-imbued by those who accepted the identity, that they are supposed to be above and better than the other. The original baddie at creation was the African or black, as they were the most visually antithetical to the namesake of whiteness. Therefore, parity by non-whites, especially blacks, is fundamentally like antimatter to the white identity. Hence, the racial backlashes against the subjectively perceived and real progress of especially blacks anywhere functions like a reflex, an action largely as subliminal as those directed by man's famed lizard brain. So too is this similar. The social lizard brain of the white psyche, predictable, reproducible, fierce. History is filled with gashes made by this reptile. See, because this identity was founded on a fundamental fallacy and supposition that was like sand through a sieve, impossible to hold together by its very nature. Whiteness has been almost schizophrenic, volatile, paranoid in trying to maintain its claimed perch atop the other, always insisting that the black boulder, especially, stay at the bottom, because that position is fundamental to the identity. That mania, the pursuit of that preservation of primacy, has been responsible for some of the most spectacular crimes against humanity ever recorded and via word of mouth. Whiteness is the only such racial identity to start out requiring others to be underfoot as a seeming cell wall, essentiality for its form, so to speak. Whiteness, unlike all other so-called racial identities, has always required a foil to sew the identity together over the ages. And the African/black has been the primal, designated, optimal antagonist for whiteness, because the black can't hide, can't pass, can't naturally achieve visual proximity on the whole or in part for whiteness like the other groups: lighter skin, straight hair, body type, speech patterns, etc. Even though for convenience at times, they've been dubbed black too, and treated as such if they irked the white man or were in the way of something coveted like land, resources, or some other capitalistically viable commodity. But essentially, the foundation of the white identity requires its foot to be figuratively and sometimes literally on the neck of at least the African or black in some form or fashion for this entity structure to be sound. Just look at history. Look at now. Other groups take their form from endemic, idiosyncratic, and unique histories, experiences, and cultures. Essentially, they do not require the maintained social hierarchy of them over those not like them to be. Their racial identities, so to speak, are self-sustained, self-contained, like a closed ecosystem that nurtures said social plant ad infinitum, requiring not even water from an external source to thrive. Juxtapose the nature of the collective other with the essence of whiteness described in the aforementioned paragraphs, it seems rather parasitic when you take into account the seemingly indispensable relationship it has with the other, especially the black identity. Now, to be fair, this is where I do the not all white people, but let me say this. To be fair, those considered white may find this truly insulting and even prejudicial because what I'm talking about is deep in the collective subconscious of so-called white populations everywhere. And what I'm saying doesn't sound nice and may make one feel bad to be talked about like this. The natural and human reaction will be to push back because what I'm saying implies that due to your race, you are not a good person just because you're white. AKA, it's an expression of white fragility, which is again part of the subconscious reflective effort to preserve the moral authority self-imbued since the beginning, since the inception of the concept of whiteness. Wait. That due to your race, you are not a good person just because you're white. See the irony above? Now go back to the beginning. Go back to how I said whiteness was created and go back to the core condition and see the irony of that and see how the irony has been hitting you in the face for centuries. See how both things have never been true. Blacks and the other don't belong at your feet due to the fact that they are black or other. Being white doesn't mean you aren't a good person. But I digress. But we must face this. I don't say this from some personal animus against white people. I'm simply looking at history and the present. I'm looking at how the instruments of racial backlash have been unsheathed time and time again. And it has always been against some other. And it has always been in response to some benevolent quality or progress or possession that the other has that has made the collective white population at the time feel that they were uncomfortable with, felt threatened by, or had the collective felt that they shouldn't have. It hasn't been the other way around. The other has never been the one to start it. The other has only responded to it. Indigenous, black or other, fought back against colonialism, empire building. Slave rebellions were because, slavery equals very bad. We have to deal with this, and whites need to start to think of themselves as a group. They need to recognize that they do exhibit group psyche and proclivities, and that the individualism is not all that drives them. Go back and look at why whiteness came to be and what was central to its identity. Tell me I'm wrong. I leave you with this foreboding. In 30 to 40 years, that dominance over the other will be irrevocably pried from the collective grasp of those considered white due to immigration, migration, higher so-called minority birth rate-driven demographic change. At that time, it will at first be a simple math reality, but social and political power will have long been growing in society among non-whites before that event horizon. And shortly after that, power levels among whites and non-whites will catch up substantially because of this math.